What's up guys, Ruppy here, bringing you my Week 2 team building video for the Pokemon Trainer Grand Tournament. Now, if you didn't check it out last week, my Columbus Swoo have entered into this new league, and we started off pretty strong, I like to think. A 4-0 victory with Mega Absol and Ambipom pretty much paving the way. Now, I did make a few mistakes with that, mostly in how I approached that game. Mainly, the fact that I played that game under the assumption that Sableye, being part Ghost, had access to Destiny Bond. I could swear I saw a Destiny Bond Sableye at some point. Well, if that was the case, it must have been. But, anyway. So, honestly, I could have ended that game a lot sooner and a lot quicker than I did, but it is what it is. I'm still trying to get used to this, and that will happen in due time. So as we head into Week 2, we are 1-0 now, and we are going to see if we can keep our undefeated momentum going, or at least build a proper undefeated streak, because one win does not technically make you undefeated, nor does it count as a winning streak. As we play the Dallas Starlys. Now, interesting note for Coach, I think his name's Louis Salazar. I'll double check it. I'll get it right when we... If that's not right, I'll make sure I get it right when we go to the actual battle. But, interesting note, he and his Starlys are also 1-0, but that was only because he won his Week 1 game via forfeit. He and his opponent could not find time to play, so his opponent conceded, and yeah. So his Starlys have not played an actual game yet. So this is going to be really interesting seeing how this plays out, because as you can see his team off to the side there, he's got a pretty threatening team. And this thing was actually quite challenging to prep a team for, because of everything he's got. I mean, look at it, his OU picks. He's got Mega Gardevoir, which nothing more really needs to be said. Mega Gardevoir is a phenomenal wall breaker. Pixelate Hyper Voice dents a lot of things, and it does its job well. Let's put it that way. Chansey, the ever so frustrating, as my voice cracks to show you how frustrated I am in just seeing it there. The ever so frustrating, ever so annoying, ever so irritating, and yet somehow tries to get you to love it wall, to end all walls, because it's just a giant pink blob that sits there packing an Eviolite, eats blows all day. That could have sounded a lot better. I did not mean... Moving on. And he is the one who ultimately ended up getting Mew, as I said in my draft analysis video. I could have snagged Mew to run Mew and Victini together for ultimate versatility, but I didn't think Mew had a place on my team at that point in time. And ironically enough, the team member I passed up for Mew is actually going to be in this game. His UU picks are also quite frightening. He's got Lucario, which can either be physical or special, or could run mixed. I need to deduce what kind of set that thing is right away, because he has the potential to do a lot of damage to my team. I have counters in mind for it. It's just a matter of what set it is going to determine how I try to approach it, assuming he brings it. Crocodile. I am quite familiar with Crocodile. Fun fact, and thankfully he's not going to see this, because this isn't going up till Sunday, and we are actually playing our battle in a little bit. I have never beaten a Scarf Crocodile in my life. Scarf Crocodile is the bane of my very existence. And there's even proof of that on YouTube. I'm actually going to throw an annotation up on the screen for you guys. Roughly almost 1 full year ago, I played Shady Penguin for a game on his channel. I brought a UU team, which was really the team I brought to Challenge DPAC's Pokemon League with last year, except I had to replace Mega Pidgeot with Mega Beedrill, because Mega Pidgeot had gotten kicked out of UU since then. His team had a Crocodile. It was a more defensive-ish variant. I ended up tricking it a Choice Scarf, and it ended up basically polishing off my team. So that was fun times. But yeah, I have never beaten a Scarf Crocodile. Do I think he's gonna run Scarf? The possibility is there, but honestly, Banded Crocodile seems like it might be his better option against my team. Just because, even though I kind of win the speed war here, for the most part, surprisingly, with a few of my mons, he could probably use the extra power, and honestly, Scarf Crocodile functions better off of running Moxie, as opposed to Intimidate, where Banded Crocodile would love the Intimidate, just because it makes its job of trying to kill something a lot easier if it comes in on a physical attacker and brings it down to -1 attack. And, of course, there is the mythical beast that is Entei. Entei poses a very huge problem for my team. I'm gonna say that straight up right now. If he brings this thing banded, which most people who use Entei kind of band it, this thing is going to punch a lot of holes in my team. I have answers for it, but it depends on what I actually decide to do as far as those answers are concerned. Because how I approach dealing with... Because I'm almost positive he's going to bring Entei, because it does a lot of damage to my team. And while I do have counters, well, they're more of checks, really. They can pick it off and outspeed it, assuming he runs Band instead of Scarf. But more than likely, I'm probably going to end up having to lose a mon in the process, depending on how this whole scenario goes. So I need to really see what kind of team he brings and plan around Entei accordingly. His RU picks, he's got Flygon, which he can either run it Defog if he doesn't decide to have Defog on Mew. He could run a Scarf set. He can do quite a few things with Flygon. Flygon doesn't necessarily threaten my team, but it has the potential to if I leave it running around unchecked. But I think I've got enough coverage to be able to handle it. Virizion can cause a bit of trouble for me, but I think I've got enough answers to it as well. And Meloetta is kind of in the same boat as Virizion, actually. It can do some damage to my team, but at the same time, it might not be one of his better options. He has better options that are more solid answers to my team than Meloetta and Virizion. Can he bring them? Absolutely. Would he bring them? It's very possible. But I can play around them with the team I am bringing. And you see down there is his NU picks. Golurk, which... honestly, just the fact I have Mega Absol alone is probably going to deter him from bringing Golurk, because that thing does not want to deal with Mega Absol at all. Manectric is probably the fastest thing he's got, honestly, barring anything Scarf. It is the fastest thing on his entire team, and I could see him bringing it, but at the same time, I actually do have things that outspeed it, even though it is his fastest Mon. And there in his last slot, you see Gastrodon. Now, his original final NU pick was Gourgeist, and he actually made a trade to get Gastrodon. And honestly, I am almost positive he's going to bring Gastrodon, because, well, for one thing, but before Week 1 was done, he was gloating about a game he played on Showdown, just trying to test his entire team in general, where he beat a Mega Absol with a Gastrodon. And alternatively, Gastrodon is a great defensive check to a lot of my teams. Honestly, Entei and Gastrodon, I have answers for them, but they are going to be the biggest problems for my team. Even though I do have answers, it just depends on how I can basically rework whatever situation they come in on to try to get me into a position where I can pick them off. I think I've done a fairly good job of creating answers for him, but we are going to see how exactly that plays out as we get into my team here. Now, my team is actually... maybe I'm making a mistake here because I keep thinking a little too hard on this when I did my prep, but I am taking a far more offensive-minded approach to this game than I might have under any other circumstances. I do have defensive pokes. I'm just not entirely comfortable bringing them. I think a more offensive approach is the way to go here, and if I can use the speed to my advantage, because my team does have quite a bit of a speed advantage over his for the most part, if I can use that to my advantage and keep on the offensive pressure, I think I will win this game. It's just a matter of how I manipulate the situation into my favor. And we're going to see what kind of team he brings to play that out. But I think this team overall, trying to blanket prep again, is the way to go. Starting off with our team captain, Vinny Vici. Managed to get a kill last week, although it also got killed because Dugtrio was a thing. Stupid arena trap. But Vinny Vici, I think, is going to really put in the work. Honestly, coverage-wise, what I have covers his entire team fairly well, I think. I'm running a completely mixed Victini set. I actually have brought this same set before in a Grand Pokemon League game. I don't think it actually worked out in that game, but it's looking like on paper it's going to do a lot more work for me this game. I contemplated bringing a Scarf set initially, but this set, from a strength and coverage standpoint, actually functions a lot better in my opinion. Running max speed for... Yeah, I'm actually running max speed this time around with a Naive Nature, which it speed ties with his Mew, and I think Meloetta... No, it speed ties with his Mew and his Mega Gardevoir, and honestly, Mega Gardevoir is not going to want to stay in on this thing unless he's that confident he's faster, because Victini, even though I've got a minus special defense nature, I can eat up just about any hit unless he runs Shadow Ball, and even then Victini can probably still take it. I can pretty much take any hit that Mega Gardevoir wants to throw at me, and proceed to wipe it out with a V-Create. I'm also running Glaciate and Energy Ball, which Glaciate is really only for the Flygon, and Energy Ball is for the Gastrodon, and Gastrodon's not going to appreciate taking that. Bolt Strike is on there kind of as a neutral ground play, and maybe a PP preserving play as well, to some extent, depending on how this plays out. It will 2-hit KO a lot of things on his team, but honestly, other than Gastrodon and Flygon, because Flygon just dies to a Glaciate, the only move I really need to click with a Life Orb fueling it is V-Create, because V-Create actually one-shots the vast majority of his team. Chansey is an exception as long as it's got its Eviolite, and even then it really doesn't want to take a V-Create, and he certainly doesn't really going to have anything with that thing that's going to be able to take advantage of the stat drops that V-Create's going to cause, so I could easily hit it with a second one. Entei can also live a V-Create, but it's not going to appreciate it unless he runs a more physically bulky Entei, which, honestly, I don't think he's going to do. That kind of seems pointless when Entei punches such a big hole in my team with a Choice Band set, or, honestly, just something to boost the power of its fire moves. But even still, V-Create will 2-hit KO it. And considering I outspeed, Vinny Vici is one of my dedicated Entei checks. I'll get 2-hit KO'd back, but if I can get myself in a position where he either brings Entei in on this thing, or a situation where we both just happen to have these mons sent in at the same time, Vinny Vici will be able to win that battle, I feel, because unless he's not banded and goes E-Speed, or he just clicks E-Speed right then and there, 2 V-Creates will wipe this thing out. Well, actually, I should be wary of the speed drop now that I think about it. I gotta remember that, because that has forgetting about the stat drops has cost me Victini in the past, so I need to keep that in mind. The second member of my team, making its PTGT debut this week, is Water Slide, my Keldeo. And I'm not gonna lie, Victini and Keldeo can tag team, bring down his entire team. Keldeo in general is a major problem for him, actually, because a spec set OHKOs just about everything he's got. I'm packing choice specs. I got Scald, Secret Sword, Hydro Pump, and I'm running Hidden Power Grass as opposed to Icy Wind. Now, Hydro Pump, assuming the accuracy works in my favor, it will one-shot Mega Gardevoir. It has a chance to one-shot Mew depending on what kind of spread he brings. Crocodile doesn't want to take it. Entei sure doesn't want to take it. I forwent Icy Wind because honestly, Flygon is O-code by Hydro Pump anyway, so I didn't feel the need to run Icy Wind in that scenario. Icy Wind will O-code, but so will Hydro Pump. Secret Sword just barely misses an O-co on Virizion, and it's got a really good chance of O-coing Chansey even with the Eviolite. Meloetta is capable of living, but it's not going to appreciate eating a Hydro Pump. And if he decides to run a more physical set to take advantage of Rock Song and Pirouette form, a Scald Burn's not going to be appreciated either. Manectric actually dies to a Hydro Pump. Golurk certainly doesn't want to take anything Keldeo can throw. And I think you can guess what Hidden Power Grass is for. If I can predict the Gastrodon switch, a Specs HP Grass will pretty much wipe Gastrodon off the face of the earth. If he doesn't bring Gastrodon, that's fine, because honestly, I can just spam Scald, Secret Sword, and Hydro Pump all day in that case, because like I said, I really don't need Icy Wind. Anything Icy Wind would deal with, I have better Hydro Pump and Secret Sword are capable of taking on as well. So, Keldeo is actually a huge problem for his entire team. If he preps well enough for it, then good on him. But he better be wary of it, especially since honestly, between Victini and Keldeo alone, I can bring down his entire team, and one can definitely set up the other. Moving on, we are going to go to Tuftus now, the Donphan, as my third member of this team for this game. For the most part, I'm actually running the same set I did last week, at least in terms of EVs and most of the moves. I did switch out Seed Bomb for Gunk Shot, and I'm running an Assault Vest, even though, honestly, just looking over his entire team, to be perfectly frank, Donphan's really going to be able to take only one hit from things like Mega Gardevoir and Entei, but in those scenarios, because of Sturdy, as long as this thing stays at full health, Tuftus is basically guaranteed to OHKO at least something, at least out of the biggest threats he can have. It can take at least one hit, and then proceed to destroy it right back. Entei certainly doesn't want to take an Earthquake. Even if I get burned, if he hits me with a Sacred Fire, Earthquake is still going to do a tremendous amount and knock it into range where something else can pick it off. Gunk Shot one-shots Mega Gardevoir. Earthquake does a lot of damage as well, but it just barely misses one-shotting it. Gunk Shot will put that thing out of commission. And everything else pretty much does not appreciate an Earthquake, or Flygon certainly wouldn't appreciate having its Scarf knocked off if he brings a Scarf set. In general, Tuftus is another problem for his team. Mostly just because if he doesn't... I mean, it all depends on what he anticipates from this thing. Because, for the most part, with how I've set this thing up, there's a very good chance that Tuftus is guaranteed at least one kill in this game, depending on how the scenario plays out. Next up, we have, coming back from a surprisingly good performance last week, Self High Five. To quote Diamond Dallas Page's old theme song, it's Ambipom, my second Life Orb user this game. You only have 2 Life Orbs, and this is proof of it. As you can see, I'm pretty much bringing the same exact set I brought last week, because honestly, once again, it works. As I hear my phone going off again. Wonderful. I'm getting so sick of that. Self High Five is another thing that pretty much causes problems for him if he's not prepared for it, because he really doesn't have anything that wants to deal with it. And plus, Ambipom alone outspeeds his entire team, barring anything that's Choice Scarf. Fake Out puts a pretty bit... With Life Orb and Technician plus Stab, and the fact I'm running Max Attack, Fake Out will put a heavy dent in most of his team, to the point where something else can... Where if Ambipom doesn't do it itself, something else can come in and basically pick off whatever's been hit. Return also cleans up pretty nicely in that regard. if I don't let him Sacred Fire, if he doesn't bring a Scarf set, and if I make him have to rely on E-Speed, Self High 5 between Fake Out and Return will actually take out his Entei. The only thing Self High 5 really doesn't want to face is Lucario. Meloetta, if he decides to go Pirouette form, might be a potential issue as well, though I think Self High 5 can take it out before then. Gastrodon can live hits, but I don't think it's really going to like having Leftovers knocked off if he brings Leftovers. And Fake Out and Return from there will also bring it down. Golurk was not going to appreciate a knockoff, though other than that I can't really do much to it, but a knockoff, to get rid of what other things item is, and do a lot of damage in the process is really all I need in that scenario. Virizion really doesn't want to deal with this thing, because Fake Out Return, I think, takes it out as well. Lucario is the big issue. Low Kick will actually take it out. It's just a matter of... This is why I said it all really depends on what kind of set he brings. Because if he's running a physical set, unless he Scarfs it, Self High 5 will outspeed and take this thing out with a Low Kick before it gets a chance to hit me. If he runs a special set, then the priority of Vacuum Wave is something I have to be wary of, because that will put Self High 5 out of commission. So that's why I need to deduce what kind of set this thing is before I feel comfortable having Ambipom take care of it. Coming back from a 3-kill performance last weekend, sweeping up what was left of the Absols, its own team, which is kind of amusing. Fallen Angel is coming back. Again, like with Ambipom, kind of running the same set as I did last week. Only difference is I swapped out Play Rough for Superpower. Now, Mega Absol isn't going to be as useful in this game as it was last week. It does have the potential to do some real damage to his team, but the problem is I need a Swords Dance up to really be able to do anything, as opposed to last week where I didn't necessarily need a Swords Dance, but it was an insurance policy. With a Swords Dance, Fallen Angel can put in some work once again between Knockoff and Sucker Punch. And Superpower is there mostly just for the Crocodile. Well, not so much the Crocodile, because I think a Knockoff will actually take it out, despite the resist, depending on what kind of set he runs. Superpower is, again, there mostly for Lucario and Chansey, because Chansey... I mean... Chansey in general is just a pain in the ass to face. I think we all know this by now. But Fallen Angel, again, it's basically a matter of, can I find an opportunity to get it in and get it set up? Chansey would be my best bet to set up on, if he brings it, which he could. It depends on, does he see that thing as a helpful wall, or does he realize that the chance for it to become setup fodder exists? But Fallen Angel can not so much clean house this week, but it can do a lot of damage, and especially set up the likes of Vinny Vidi Vici and Water Slide to be able to pick up the pieces, and even Ambipom at that, depending on what kind of team he brings and how the battle goes about. And for my final Mon, I debated a lot on what I wanted my last Mon to be, but ultimately I decided to basically go with the PTGT debut of Grace, my Togekiss. As you can see, I've kind of decided to sort of go with para-flinch scenario here. Now, it wasn't intentional. It's just, with this spread, I can actually live a lot of hits that would otherwise, if I fully invest in either defense or special defense, would probably take me out. I can live a Stone Edge if he brings that from a Bandit Entei. I can take Hyper Voices and Psyshocks from Mega Gardevoir. But the main purpose of Grace in this game is to kind of be a base wall, just to help me figure out. It's basically a pivot, so I can see it can take hits, and I can figure out what to do from that point on, depending on what move he uses with whatever Pokemon he's got in. T-Wave will help me for speed control. That was one of the reasons I was heavily considering bringing Galvantula to this game. but ultimately decided against it because Galvantula can't really take hits and doesn't really, other than setting up Sticky Web, it doesn't really do a whole lot. And this feels like a game where I need every member of my team pulling its weight to pull this off, especially since I'm going a more offensive approach, with the exception of Grace. So Thunder Wave can help slow things down and essentially guarantee that even if he's got something Scarf, I can outspeed it with Keldeo or Ambipom or Victini or even Mega Absol or even Donphan, especially Donphan, given how I described it, and put him out in a position where he's kind of on the back foot. Air Slash, unfortunately, kind of helps in that regard. I don't like hacks, but if I have to do it, so be it. Plus, Air Slash is a relatively neutral option to deal with a good chunk of his team. Heal-Bell is mostly due to the very likelihood of Will-O-Wisp burns from something like Mew, or even potentially Golurk. Sacred Fire burns, especially from Entei, to potentially give maybe Tough Tusk a second chance to come in and do work. And Roost is kind of self-explanatory. So, there is my team. It's going to be interesting to see how it plays out because, like I said, I'm going a more offensive-minded approach than maybe... I'm still iffy on if this is going to work, but I think if I keep the pressure on, I will be able to win this game. It's just a matter of what he brings and what I can do to mitigate the damage from some of his heavier hitters. Because he's got a more offensive-oriented team, with the exception of the likes of Mew and Chansey, and Gastrodon. But if I fight fire with fire, I will be able to overwhelm him, because as I said, Victini and Keldeo, together they clean a house on his entire team. Ambipom's hit-and-run tactics will definitely get the better of him, because Ambipom outspeeds everything, barring something he's got Choice Scarf. Mega Absol puts in a good amount of work against him. Donphan is almost guaranteed at least one kill, depending on how he proceeds to play this game, and it can take hits from the likes of Crocodile and Flygon, and Chansey certainly doesn't want to deal with it. So, I'm liking my chances. It's just a matter of getting into the game itself and seeing how it plays out. So, thank you guys for watching. I'm sorry this team prep went on a little longer than I thought, especially after last week's went not as long as this one. But I wanted to make sure my thought process was explained, because this is going to be a very tough game for me. But we do have a good chance of pulling this out if I can keep the pressure on him. So thank you guys for watching. I have been Ruppy, and my Columbus Swoo and I will be seeing you tomorrow, as of when the videos are uploaded, for our game against the Dallas Starlys. Take care.